You know that feeling when you finally decide to splurge on a cheap power strip because it looks good online, only to find out a few weeks later that every time the power flickers your computer shuts down, you lose work, and you're left scrambling for a backup battery you don't even have? It's a classic buyer's regret that makes most of us double-check every spec before we click buy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. That's why I spent a few evenings reading through forums, watching a handful of unboxing videos, and comparing the APC Smart UPS 2200 VA against a few of its competitors before I got my hands on it. In this review I'll tell you whether this UPS feels like a smarter buy or just another pricey gadget that looks good on paper. First, let's talk about the core problem most people face when they start looking at UPS units. You need something that actually keeps your workstation alive during those brief brownouts, but you also don't want to pay for a data center grade machine that you'll never fully utilize. The APC Smart UPS 2200 VA sits in that sweet spot for a lot of home office and small studio users, but it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. If you're a casual gamer who only needs a few minutes to save your game before the power goes out, this might be overkill. If you're a freelance video editor who runs a workstation with a powerful CPU, a high-end GPU, and a few external drives, the extra capacity and the pure sine wave output could be exactly what you need to avoid data corruption when the grid hiccups. The first thing I noticed when I set this thing up in my home office was the LCD display. Most entry-level UPS models give you just a couple of blinking LEDs. The APC gives you a full-color screen that tells you the load percentage, battery runtime left, and even the health of the battery itself. That level of transparency is useful when you're trying to balance how much of your equipment you can safely plug in. For my setup dual monitors, a desktop tower, a NAS, and a router I hovered around a 4,550% load, which means the UPS still has plenty of headroom for a future upgrade. The screen also lets you set the desired runtime in minutes, which the unit calculates based on the current load, so you're not left guessing how long you have before you need to shut down gracefully. Pure sine wave output is another claim that APC makes a point of highlighting. In practice, this matters if you have equipment with active power factor correction, PFC, like modern PC power supplies, or if you run audio interfaces that can be finicky with a stepped waveform. In my testing, the TV and a US-powered audio interface both powered on without any whining or flickering, something I've seen happen with cheaper simulated Sine UPS units. That means the Smart UPS 2200 VA can act as a true bridge between your delicate studio gear and the often noisy mains voltage. Now, let's get into the outlets. 8 battery backup and surge protection sockets sound generous, but they're not all created equal. The first 4 are true battery-backed outlets with the pure sine wave shape, the remaining 4 are surgeonly. This layout forces you to think about which devices truly need battery protection. I plugged my router, NAS, and desktop into the battery-backed slots, and kept my monitor lamp and a USB charger on the surgeonly side. In a real-world outage, the router kept its IP address alive, the NAS stayed online long enough for me to finish a file transfer, and my desktop gave me roughly 8 minutes of runtime, just enough to save my work and initiate a proper shutdown. One of the hidden trade-offs is the weight and size. At roughly 45 pounds, the APC isn't something you'll want to move around weekly. It's built to sit under a desk or in a closet, and the included wheels make occasional repositioning doable, but it's not a portable unit you can carry to a coffee shop. If you need a UPS for a travel-heavy workflow, you'll probably look elsewhere. The other downside is the battery replacement cost. The unit uses a sealed lead-acid battery that, according to APC's specs, lasts about 3 to 5 years depending on usage patterns. When the time comes to replace it, you'll be looking at a spare battery that costs roughly a quarter of the original purchase price. That's something buyers need to factor into the total cost of ownership. On the upside, the Smart UPS 2200 VA shines in network-grade power conditioning. The built-in line noise filter and surge protection are rated for high-energy spikes, which is reassuring if you live in an area prone to thunderstorms. I tested the unit during a storm that caused several brief voltage dips, the UPS held the line steady, and none of my devices rebooted. For anyone who runs a home server or a small business router that must stay up 24/7, this level of protection can prevent costly downtime. Who should buy this? If you're running a professional workstation, think video editing, 3D